Hey guys, got a 10-minute game against an 11:32. My opponent's played the Reti, so I'm just going to play d5. Interesting. The Tennison Gambit offering up a pawn. Alright, well let's take the pawn and see what happens. Okay, now the knight's attacking the pawn. I can defend with my own knight, but is the bishop going to come out here? Then I've got e6. The queen can't come out to here or here, so that's okay. Interesting. Pawn number 2. Very interesting. Alright. I don't know this at all. So, principal play. If pawn takes, I can take the queen. Force the king to move. I'm okay with that. I can attack the knight. Then if knight takes, pawn takes, I take the queen. So I'm postponing development here. His bishop can't come out, his queen can't come out to here, here or here. Queen could come to there, but then the knight falls. So knight can't retreat to there, could go all the way back there. Goes there, it gets taken. Okay. Well, it's free stuff, I'm going to take it. Again, the queen can't come out there, I'm okay. The bishop can't come out, it's blocked by the pawn. Interesting times. This is an unrated game, so we don't have to worry too much, but still the idea is to play principled. Okay, so we've got 2 attackers on this pawn. But again, I'm not too worried. If knight takes, pawn takes, I take the queen, king has to move. So I'm alright with that. So I'm kind of inclined to keep developing. Bishop out to here is a thought. Knight c6 is a thought. Let's play the knight out for now. See what my opponent chooses to do. I don't think taking there is really a good option. I can capture with the knight, and then if queen takes my queen, I can recapture with the knight again. Oh, then I lose my knight. Okay, so if pawn takes, I'll probably take white's queen, then knight will recapture. Then I can recapture this pawn. I'm going to be up a piece. So white is definitely behind in development at this point in time. Bishop comes out. Alright. What's that bishop doing? I have bishop here, attacking the queen. If pawn takes, I've got pawn takes, pawn takes. Don't want to capture there because that just invites the bishop to come out, then he can castle. I don't want him to castle. So I feel like I just want to bring my bishop out to here. Maybe try and get my rook involved in the game. Okay, we have takes, and now if queen takes my queen, I can recapture the rook, so that's alright. I should recapture the pawn somehow. I think capturing, well, the knight's on a protected square, the bishop is not. I take with the bishop, knight takes. Don't know. I'm going to take with the knight. Do I have to worry about this bishop coming out here? Just put my king back on e8. Or block. Let's take with the bishop. Time's running lower. It's under 6.5 minutes now. If I have an extra knight, that's the key thing. I want to swap off material and simplify. Get to an ending if I can, I think. So exchanging queens is not a bad thing at this point. My king's off the mark. When the queens come off the board, then I'm just going to take the queen now, and then the knight. Okay, so now the queens are off the board. Having my king uncastled is now less of an issue. So strategically, this is all right for me. He's got bishop here. Got two good central knights. I think I can just block that fairly safely. Then I've got rook here. Is that a problem? Okay, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm just going to drop my king back here. Might even drop my knight back. This is okay. Pinned knight. Right, need to get this bishop and this rook into the game. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to try and swap off rooks then. Bishop takes, recapture. Okay, just swapping again. Swapping again. Alright, I'm going to drop my knight back here. Just to close off this open file from the rook. Give me time to get my bishop out. Something like this. Alright, so now it's time. I could try and get my king to safety, that's one idea. Could push in the center. That would release the bishop as well. He might be thinking about this idea, but then I just run away. This knight's not actually pinned, so that's not too bad. I'm going to play that. Anticipating this. Okay, just move away. This pawn is defended by the knight. This pawn is defended by that knight that's currently pinned. Alright. Don't see any problem with capturing that pawn. Now two attackers on the knight, that's fair enough. Let's mobilise my bishop. If he wants to capture this knight, that's absolutely fine. Okay, now, so he's just defended that pawn. I can play bishop there, propose a trade of bishops, all in my favour. Interesting position. Let's try this idea. Bishop can't go there, there. Anywhere there it's going to get taken. Alright, so it's time to attack that bishop now. Again, this pawn's defended by the knight. Okay, now he's attacking my knight that's defending that. I can't capture because it's pinned. I can push h3. Probably just prompt g3. Okay, so what do we do here? So he can win a pawn by capturing the knight, pawn takes, and then bishop takes that one. I can move this knight. That is an option. So knight to there, I'm attacking two pawns, yeah? But then bishop can take that, and knight can't recapture. So I'm just going to move my king across, I think. If he wants to get rid of a bishop, that's okay. That's alright. So he can grab that now. That's fine. And now, I've got one good bishop. Push, push, push up. Alright, the bishop is undefended. So let's just put the bishop there. It's defended by the pawn and defends the pawn in turn. Okay, that's what we expected. This pawn is pinned. Push again, And the bishop's defending that pawn. All right, interesting. Interesting times. Now, I'm going to take, I've got potential of that. Okay, so now this is that would pin the pawn. Doesn't stop the king from capturing there. So should I just play there? I'm still a piece up. I've got knight in attacking the pawn. I've got bishop maybe attacking the pawn. 2.5 minutes left. Defend the pawn. I think bishop there is good, pinning the pawn. Knight can come in with a second attack. You might try this again. Alrighty. Not too concerned about this pawn. I could put my king here now, threaten the bishop. I can't advance the pawn now, loses the bishop. Now my king's defending this square. Okay, knight to here now hits the bishop and this pawn. So I'm expecting the bishop to drop back. So at this point in time, do I want to trade 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn? It's not an issue now because the bishop has retreated. However, I have the option of knight here, with the threat of a fork on king and rook. It's also adding another defender to the pawn. This guy's still pinned, can't move. So I'm probably going to see the rook come out. I'll drop my bishop back there, defending both of these pawns. All right. Okay, there we go. So there's the fork. King has to retreat. Take the rook. King takes. And now I can push. Or I can simply go after this pawn. Let's just play simple chess. Okay, you've defended. That would force the king into the corner. Now my king is powerful, so what I'd like to do would be to attack this pawn again. So how about this as an idea? I push there. Yep. Okay, we can trade pawns. I'm a rook up. So all I need to do now is checkmate my opponent in 1:20. The bishop is still defending this pawn, so we're all right. Drop the bishop back. Could have just grabbed that pawn actually. I think I will. That's still defended. And I'm threatening mate actually. So he's got to play that, I think. I think that's the only move. And checkmate, there we go. Right. Interesting start. The Tennison Gambit. I've looked at it in the past, I don't really know it. Let's say well done to my opponent, and let's have a quick look at the analysis. Did I play solidly? It felt okay, it felt like there were a lot of tactics getting in the way of development. Okay, 88% no blunders, alright, so 3 mistakes. Book, taking is best. Knight there is best. Okay, so this is quite a common motif in these kinds of gambits. Just backing up your spare pawn with a central pawn push. I decided to defend, so it said that's okay. It's good, but e5 is best. We see the same thing in like the Scandinavian sometimes, and that's a mistake. by white. That's a mistake. Okay, should have played my bishop out. Bishop out here. It worked out alright, so mistake. And that's a mistake. Best. Okay, so now I'm up in material, nearly 4 points up already. So the Tennison Gambit, I think, merits further investigation. I think we'll leave it at there for now, for a decent win. Let's just do a quick review of the game. That's a mistake apparently, so's that. So up in material, and I think let's just illustrate the key point here, which is that I'm up a piece early on, right, for a pawn. So what I need to do, and plus the other factor that we mentioned is the king is off the mark, so the king can't castle, and when the king has had to move into the board, when the king's foregone castling right, what you should be looking at, if you're up in material, is to simplify the game. So capturing material, trades, and the reason I took the queen first is because it's forcing, right? Either the king or the rook must take the queen because there's no other legal move. So I can guarantee recapturing the knight. Bishop comes out, I retreat to the back rank, pin, propose a trade of rooks, and I trade off rooks. I'm just keen to trade off as much as possible and make my one piece advantage stick. Now, white has better pawns and has a relatively safe king, right? But we are actually now in an ending. So bishop retreats, I start pressing up with my pawns, swapping off more pawns, propose another trade, he doesn't want to do that, clearly. Attack the bishop again. Okay, and now I drop a pawn, but I've traded off one more minor piece. Right, so, I mean, a move here could have been actually to capture on there with a rook. Then the king would have had to have moved to one side. That might have been an option here. Yeah, that could have been viable. So let's see what this is. Move 24. Let's go to the... Okay, so here I played bishop f6, and yeah, the computer is saying I should have captured the pawn for +7. That would have been pretty good. So it's saying bishop takes, sorry, rook takes g2 check, king h1, then knight to f7 to defend the bishop. Interesting. Maintaining this it means the king actually has no squares whatsoever at this point in time. So that, yeah, interesting point. So let's go back to the game. I move my bishop. Now he rescues his pawn, and I'm just throwing my pawns up now. These guys are kamikaze. You know, all I want to do is just get rid of at least one of these pawns so that my piece advantage can show. Defend the pawn, pin the pawn. King comes across. Important defensive move. I do not want this pawn to, you know, for example, rook comes across. I need to be able to stop this pawn. So king a6 here would have been okay. I have two pawns here, which could always have stopped this guy. Coming with an attack now, and he misses the fork. Right? Always ask, why did my opponent play that move? Well, when you've got two pieces like this and there's a knight around, you need to watch out for forks. And that's pretty much the end of the game. And pawn falls, and there we go. Lovely, lovely checkmate. Okay, so there you go. One way to approach the Tennison Gambit. I don't think it was particularly correct from either side, but as always, good chess principles should leave you in good stead. So I really do think this. I think that you know, we talk a lot about openings and practicing some theory, and that's not a bad way to help you to get an advantage early on in a game. However, I do believe that principled play is by far the best approach for beginners and improving players. You really can. I think you can definitely get beyond 1,000, 1,200, almost without knowing any opening theory whatsoever, because the principles will take you a long way. But really, the takeaway for this game is, if you do find yourself in that kind of situation when you have a material advantage but a compromised king, simplify, simplify, simplify. Swap off as many remaining pieces as you can in order that your small material advantage becomes magnified in the game. And here, of course, I end up a full rook up, and it leads to a relatively easy and relatively aesthetic finish. Alright, so I've just remembered that, of course, I do know the Tennison Gambit. So let me just show you the main idea. So here I've got I played with the black pieces. So the Tennison Gambit can come a few ways. So in our game, we start with the Reti opening, okay? And this is also known as our ICBM Gambit. Now, obviously, that prevents an early e5, which is what you would like to play. It's the most natural move. It releases two pieces, the queen and the bishop. So very often you'll get black playing d5 instead. Obviously, also a natural move, controls squares in the center and releases this bishop as well. And now black plays e4, and you take, and then the knight there. Now, if you're white, this is what you're kind of hoping for, right? First of all, I think the knight coming out to defend the pawn, because the pawn's under attack by that knight, okay? And then white plays this, and then if black captures, white recaptures with the bishop, and this is key. Now, if black thinks, do you know what, I want to get rid of this this knight, and they play h6, then it's big trouble, because of the completely open d5, okay? So the next move is knight takes f7, attacking both, forking the queen and the rook. So black is going to lose material, but if the king captures the knight, look at this bishop. The bishop that's captured the pawn there now comes to here, attacking the king. King can't retreat, so either the king captures the bishop or has to move to one side, but either way, we have queen takes queen. Okay, so that's one way it can start, okay, from the Reti, okay, and then d4, and so this is the pattern that you're looking for. Now, I would imagine that a lot of players will know this. Obviously, I forgot it today. First game of the day, not quite awake, but there are other ways it can happen. So if you are an e4 player, for example, and your opponent plays the Scandinavian against you, you can almost like pre-move this knight move and think, and black goes, what a jellyhead, he's given me a pawn and I'm going to attack the knight with tempo. And then you play this, right? And then we have the same kind of idea. Yeah, if they take that, he's gone, he's done for now, because the king really can't capture the knight because he's going to lose his queen. If he doesn't capture the knight, he's got to move his queen, and then he's going to lose a rook, and that's going to be very, very difficult. Now, there are good ways to play against this. It's not, but basically, you just, as black, you just need to avoid this move, right? As long as you avoid that, trying to kick the knight away, and instead just think about developing, then you're okay. So let's just go back to the game that I played. The Reti Gambit takes knight to there, okay. And now I do this, okay? So I'm going down the gambit path. Yes, now the pawn comes out, right? Now I'd forgotten that I knew this gambit. So I kick the knight first. And he tries this, okay. So yeah, basically he's trying to trap me. and I didn't recognise the gambit that, of course, I knew. And he sacrifices the knight anyway, rather than drop it all the way back. So basically, yeah, it seems as though I refuted the gambit instinctively, rather than capture the obvious pawn. I think a bell might have gone if I'm in my head if I'd have seen this. I think I might have recalled and managed to fire up some brain cells at that point. But yeah, kicking the knight first of all, that worked out perfectly well. The knight's really got not too many ways to go. If the knight captures there, you can take with the knight, pawn takes, and now you take white's queen, then white's king has to move. 7 pawns each, no one's developed, but your king can still castle. That's the key thing. Okay, so there you go. Quick lesson on the Tennison, in addition to how to play when your opponent sacrifices a piece and causes your king to move. All right, see you later.